evening. My name is Andy Lee. I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Albany County. I live in the town of Bethlehem, and I will be your moderator tonight. This forum is your opportunity to listen to Ward 7 City Council candidates who are on the Democrat primary ballot this year. They will be answering questions from the general public so that you can learn about their views on issues relevant to your communities. To vote in a primary election in New York State, you must be registered to vote in the political party holding that election, and you can only vote for candidates running on your party line. Elections will be held in person. Contact the Albany County Board of Elections if you need to cast an absentee ballot. You must request an application from the Board of Elections to vote absentee in New York State. The deadline to request an application is June 15th in any way other than in person. It is June 21st, 2021. That is the last date to request an application in person at the Board of Elections office on South Pearl Street. It is also June 21st, 2021, the last day to postmark your election ballot. The League would also like everyone to realize that the New York State Legislature has passed voting reform laws that now await Governor Cuomo's signature. New York is becoming more voter friendly. This event was organized for the public by the League of Women Voters of Albany County in partnership with the Delaware Avenue, the Second Avenue, the Helderberg, and the Hudson Park Neighborhood Associations. The League is nonpartisan. It is dedicated to the informed and responsible participation of citizens in government. If anyone is interested in membership, the League can be found online, lwvalbany.org. We want to thank everyone who submitted questions in advance. We asked for these in advance so that we know that we are not accepting, we are no longer accepting any other questions during the forum. So all of the questions have been reviewed so that we do not have repeat questions and that we ensure that every question to the panel of candidates is fair and addresses both candidates. We may not get to every question, and we apologize if your question does not get asked. The panel did try to ensure that every topic of question was addressed and that the questions are varied and representative. In order to give candidates a fair chance at going first and second, the order that candidates respond will be rotated. Tonight's forum is for the Common Council representatives for Ward 7 within the City of Albany. All three candidates running to represent Ward 7 were invited. Two are here with us tonight. Welcome to Sergio Adams and Violetta De Rosa, and the third candidate declined to participate. Each Common Council member functions to regulate and protect the interests of residents within their ward. They are authorized to affect local laws pertaining to property and government affairs within the city. Candidates must be a resident of Albany for at least 1 year prior to taking office. Their salary, the salary for Common Council members is $20,720, and that's a 2021 number. And they serve for a 4-year term. The timekeeper for tonight is Laura Brignall, who will hold up cards to alert candidates and the audience to the amount of time left. Candidates have been asked to respect the timekeeper and everyone here tonight by keeping within the limit. The format for this evening will be as follows. Opening statements from candidates up to 2 minutes each. Questions from the public, and each candidate has 2 minutes to respond to each question. Closing statement, 2 minutes each. It is now time for opening statements. Candidates drew lots to determine their order. The first speaker during opening statements will also be first during closing statements. We will hear from Violetta De Souza first. Please begin.
Hello, it's Violetta De Rosa. Good evening. My name is Violetta De Rosa, and I'm a progressive candidate running to be the Albany Common Council member of the 7th Ward. I'm a longtime resident education and community advocate, and a first-time candidate. I have been an active community member compelled to serve, from launching Albany City School backpack program in 2012 to community cleanups, delivering food, lobbying for funding for education, and women healthcare issues. Running for office is a natural progression of that commitment to serve my community and to speak up without the opportunity to do so for themselves. As the daughter of immigrants who did not speak English until I was 5 years old, I learned at a very young age how to advocate for others. I bring experience in advocacy and relationship building that will serve me well when addressing the issues and challenges our community faces. I am committed to working hard to address quality of life issues that impact our neighborhoods, from urban blight, absentee landlords, and drive economic development. Of course, many of you might heard me speak about my passion for our youth. Without creating opportunities for success, we will not only have failed them, but we will also have failed our community. For years, my professional and volunteer experience, I have built relationships with community leaders, city, county, and state officials. More recently, I have been developing relationship with Albany's department heads. Working relationships are critical to getting the work done. I will be a champion for every resident so that each constituent has equal representation in the city's planning and programs, regardless of their address. All our street deserves attention, and I am committed to working hard to address the quality of issues that we face, block by block. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosa. And now we will hear from Sergio Adams. Make sure you unmute yourself, Sergio.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here with everyone. My name is Sergio Adams. I previously ran for this position, Common Council 7th Ward seat, back in 2017. I know many voters that may be listening that live in our ward know me and understand the work that I've been doing over the last few years since I last ran. But for those who do not know, here's a brief information about myself. So I live here in the Hudson Park neighborhood. I've lived here in this neighborhood going on 6 years. For me, my family, this neighborhood has been home, and we've been greatly a part of this neighborhood, working to address a lot of the issues here in the 7th Ward. We participate not only with the neighborhood associations, but also with people in the community addressing such activities as backpack giveaways, voter information, informationals, and frequently doing scholarship giveaways with the boys that I mentor at Green Tech Charter School. I am a 4-year Democratic Committee member. I've joined back in 2017. Since then, I've been frequently going out in the neighborhood, speaking with residents, continuing to build relationships and rapport with the residents here in our neighborhood. I feel that is the most important thing to establish community. The problems that I'm looking to address are affordable housing, as well as police reform, as well as addressing the quality of life issues. For me, this race comes down to experience. I have that experience. With my background in urban planning and community development, I feel a lot of the issues that we are dealing with here in the city of Albany are directly tied to urban planning. And these are the skill sets that I bring to the city of Albany, as well as to the 7th Ward. I have been committed to not only being an active member in the community, but have been attending meetings regarding issues on the 7th Ward, from transportation to housing, to traffic, to new developments happening. I've been at these meetings.
Thank you, Sergio. I'm sorry, but we're over our time on that, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will now begin the Q&A portion of the evening. Candidates are reminded you have 2 minutes for each question. And we are going to start with you, Sergio Adams. Our first question, please tell us how you've been involved in some of the city and neighborhood improvements.
Yes, so thank you. So right where I left off with my opening statement. So as I mentioned, I'm a Democratic committee member. I've been in this seat for the last 4 years and will continue to be. I've also mentor, as I mentioned, young men at Green Tech Charter School. I've been doing that for the last 6 years. And with our program at Green Tech Charter School, we have a Guide Right program where we're training young men here in the city of Albany, here in the 7th Ward, leadership skills. Over the last few years, we have raised and given away over $60,000 in scholarships to young men here in the city of Albany. Beyond that, I'm also part of the Capital District Transportation Committee. The Neighborhood Association is familiar with some of their works, as we had presentations at several meetings. On the Transportation Committee, we are looking to address the environmental issues here in the city of Albany, here affecting our neighborhoods, and working to make sure that clean air is addressed, but also the access to places has increased and are improved. Additionally, my involvement also includes working and advocating for affordable housing. I've worked and served on the board of United Tenants previously, and continue to work with housing advocates advocating for affordable housing. Additionally, when it comes to issues focusing in the 7th Ward, the Beaver Treatment Sewer Facility, when that proposal of development came out, I was at the meetings from the beginning, following up, educating people in the ward, in our neighborhoods about those issues and the designs and plans that were discussed. When it came to the Lincoln Park Master Plan, I also did the same thing, attending meetings, talking to people, engaging, making sure that people were educated and informed on those issues. When it came to the
we need to stop. Sorry. We need to keep it to the 2 minutes if we can. Thank you very much, Sergio. So we're going to move to Violetta, and she's going to give us the same question. Please tell us how you've been involved in city and neighborhood improvements. Make sure you unmute yourself.
Thank you. That's a great question. I have been a very active community member since I landed in Albany 15 years ago, specifically around our schools. As you know, I've been a long time community advocate, pounding the pavement for education and funding in education. That's how I began to build a lot of my relationships with state officials and county officials and city officials, is through that lobbying effort. I've also was involved in the high school, the Reimagine the High School building. So that's something that I've been very involved in as well. Of course, I've been doing community cleanups here in my neighborhood and across the ward, not only in relationship to the campaign, but with other issues, and also volunteering with our young people as well through different groups. And of course, the thing that I'm very proud of, and I've made a lot of impact throughout, not only this ward, but through the entire city, was the backpack program, which we launched in 2012. And that started from 30 children in one school, and we're across the district now. And that was, I firmly believe that we're all pebbles, and that was me being a pebble rippling through. And that program is in every school in the district, and it's currently run by HADIS, the Homeless Aid and Traveler Society. So I'm very familiar on how to build sustainable programming. You know, volunteers come and go, but it's very critical to have programming. Also, I am been a longtime community advocate, working with different groups like Capital Women. And also, when we're talking about clean air, I did lobby our county officials to pass the Albany's Clean Air Act. We're very proud of that initiative, that we worked to make that happen. So that is very important to me. So those are some of the things. Also, I have to tell you, it's a lot of quality of life issues that the city has dealt with me on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Violetta, you are going to start us on question number 2. The city is facing increasing gun violence. What steps would you propose or support to interrupt this violence? That's to you, Violetta. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. That is a great question. In fact, it's part of one of the reasons why I'm running, is our youth. And we need, when I was at the Speak Out event a couple of weeks ago, right after the violence that occurred, our youth were talking about how they want opportunities, that there is not enough to do in our city for them, that we had a time where we had community centers and we had different programming, and we have a number of wonderful non-for-profits, but we need to get them together and have space for them to be in a more communal setting. So that is one of the ways we can stem some of the violence that we're seeing. We have to provide our children, our students, our young people with mentors. It is really critical that we have mentors and that help guide them through their experiences. And then we have to go and look really deep down and really work hard to eliminate the true cause of gun violence, which is poverty, which is education gaps, which is systematic racism. Those are all the things that we really must work hard to undo. And I feel very passionate about. I think we also really have to talk about the community as well. And we have so many tremendous groups like SNUG, like other groups that are working in the community that have trust within the community. And we need to also allow them and help them do what they have been doing. It really is all about the community and the community coming together, not only to serve our youth, but to provide opportunities to get out of poverty, to provide employment, to provide just the change that we need to move forward. And I think that is just a start, because it was not one issue that got us to where we are, and it's not going to take one approach to get us out of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sergio, would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Okay. The city is facing increasing gun violence. What steps would you propose or support to interrupt this violence?
Thank you. So as a person that has been personally affected by gun violence, this issue of young men constantly dying every week hits home a lot, because again, some of these are people that I know, school members, people I went to school with, friends. It's not a one set answer to how to address the gun violence, right? But in my belief, in order to address the gun violence, we have to first address the concern, which is safety. People are worried about their safety. I can't stress enough how often people are expressing to me they're afraid to let their kids out. They're afraid to go out in Albany nowadays. They want to move because of it. So we need to tackle the part of safety and making sure that we're working with the police department and other law enforcement to make sure that these guns are getting off the streets. We also need to make sure that while these guns are getting off the streets, we're creating and developing those programs like the LEAD program to not only address the youth that are involved in these shootings, but we also need to make sure that they also are not getting stuck in this criminal justice system that will take advantage of them. So it's important to have these programs like LEAD and making sure that we are addressing police reform at that same time, to be intentional and specific and detailed as to what our standards and expectations are. And on a community level, it's about changing the mindset of the community. The communities that we're seeing a lot of this violence, it's because of generational trauma, poverty, a lot of these things that we know. But in order to address it, we need people who understand it, who have dealt with it, who know the people, who can work with these people and engage them on a level that other people outside of their community can. And so we need to have positive male Black representation. We need positive representation in these communities, in these community centers, at programs to show these kids that there's different opportunities, there's different paths. We understand that this is not going to be overnight, but we understand that it's going to take a lot of resources, and we need all hands on deck to be able to tackle this. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So that question will lead directly into our next question. There have been, which Mr. Adams, you are going to answer first for us, if you don't mind. There have been several proposed reforms to the Albany Police Department. Are there specific reforms that you support or do not support, and why?
Yeah, so one of the ones that I am supporting is the ban of the tear gas and rubber bullets. I came out months ago speaking about that after, again, personally experiencing being tear gas, being pepper sprayed, not only just as of last year at these rallies and stuff, but previously. These things are very common in Black neighborhoods and neighborhoods here in the city of Albany. It's the history of it, unfortunately. But I'm also in favor of what I just mentioned, the LEAD program, that's going to help not only avert and divert low-level offenders, but also focus on bringing a different demographic to show them a different path. There's also the use of force. And so part of that reform is the policy regarding authorized of deadly use force. And so we've witnessed situations, Dante Ivy, in the past, where officers have used deadly force in situations that were unnecessary. And unfortunately, it's always costing a member of our community their life. And so in order to do that, we need to look at the use of force and the fact that we do not want our police officers using deadly weapons, chemical weapons to harm people, because we know the impact of it. But we also need to look at the disciplinary actions of the police and the oversight. We need oversight over the police department. We know we cannot trust police to police. And so to do that, we need to support and empower our police reform collaborative group to make sure that they have the tools necessary to do the job.
Thank you so much. Violetta, I'm going to repeat the question for you.
Thank you.
There have been several proposed reforms to the Albany Police Department. Are there specific reforms that you support or don't support, and why?
Well, this is a new initiative. The whole report is a new initiative, and I think it's, I'm glad that we could get to this point. We had a tremendous amount of community members come together to put forth this commission. And that is, we need to see, how this new initiative is going to work out. I could tell you personally some of the things that I would like to see. I would like to see more, something like Albany's Accord, the Albany County Accord, where we have professionals that are there to deal with mental health and non-emergency issues. I think that will then allow our officers to do the work that they need to do. So that is something specifically. We need to also talk about how we need more community engagement and community officers. That is something that I think is really critical that we need. So that to me is very important. And it is a new initiative. Albany has really been in the leading front for many years. We are going through a very difficult time, the police department, our community, and we really need to come together and put forth what the community wants. And part of that is very much the ban on tear gas, which is part of that, what was presented by the commission. So, and then we also definitely want to see the review board have the powers that they need to have to do what they need to do. And I believe that we will see that happen. So I think we're all moving forward in the right direction, but can we do better? 100%. And I think as when we work together as a community, we're going to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Violetta, you were going to continue and start us off with the fourth question, which refers back to what Sergio had been discussing. So it may give you a chance to weigh in on that and give him a chance to go a little bit more in depth. Recently, the City Council tabled the discussion on the use of tear gas and rubber bullets by Albany police officers. Do you agree with this decision? Why or why not? And do you support banning the use of tear gas and rubber bullets by the Albany Police Department? This does come from the public.
Yeah. I will tell you that I support the Geneva Convention, which was established in 1925. Therefore, I do support a complete ban. I understand, though I don't agree with why the Common Council tabled it. They wanted to have an opportunity to have further discussion to see what other alternatives will we give the police force. So I can appreciate that. However, I would support a ban and avoid the use of rubber bullets. But we also want to make sure that we don't have only lethal weapons as a choice. So we need to further have the discussion, but 100% ban. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Adams, would you like to comment further on this question? That the City Council tabled the discussion for the use of tear gas and rubber bullets, and whether you agree or disagree with that and why, and whether you support banning the use of tear gas and rubber bullets by the police department. Mute, make sure you unmute.
As I mentioned, I'm in support of the ban. The Common Council deciding to table this to have more discussion on this matter is understandable, but it's also part of the issue that we're having in terms of getting traction on a lot of this work. And so I'm not sure how much discussion needs to be had, but if there is an alternative, that should be presented as soon as possible to not hold things up.
Terrific, thank you very much. Continuing with you, Sergio, and on a new topic, how will you work with 7th Ward residents to keep them informed and involved in citywide issues like zoning, planning, and meetings?
That's a great question. And to answer that question, it's what I've been doing by going out very frequently and speaking to residents. As a Democratic committee member, I'm out there canvassing, door knocking, speaking to residents, not only on my behalf, but for other elected officials. And this gives me the opportunity to speak with people directly about important issues at City Hall. As many people know, the biggest thing about my campaign has been education and informing and engaging the community. Because one of the things that I realized is that we have a lot of people who are misinformed or unaware to attend certain meetings, certain gatherings to get the important information that they need to know. And so when it comes to urban planning, again, as many people may know, my background is in urban planning. I've worked here in the city doing planning for the Arbor Hill, West End, Warehouse District, as well as the Central Avenue corridor. And through those projects, I've worked going into the schools, explaining to our high schoolers and middle schoolers the importance of urban planning, how it impacts them. Also going out in the community and explaining to residents how rezoning directly impacts them and what they can expect if the rezone continues as the way it's currently out. And so engagement is very important. I've also taken it a step further than any other elected official by using social media to engage a different population of young people and people who are out there that did not have any interest in local politics, but we gave them a reason to. Partnering with organizations like the League to educate people on voting, their voting rights, as well as working with organizations like United Tenants to be able to educate people on tenant rights and opportunities, being able to work with organizations like Albany Housing Partnership to educate people on the home ownership opportunities that are available for them in their communities. Also working with the community fund to make sure people know the opportunities to get business loans.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you very much. I'm sorry we have to keep cutting you off. You have so much to add. So we turn this question over to Violetta, and I will repeat the question. How will you work with 7th Ward residents to keep them informed and involved in citywide issues like zoning, planning, and meetings?
I already do. Actually, it's one of the things, as a longtime community member, we have, you know, a lot of people will tell you I've been very involved in the community. We have had to deal with many issues on our block and other blocks. One of the things to me and about my campaign really, as I go door to door and I'm meeting a tremendous amount of people, is people want to be engaged and people want their expertise to be tapped into. And so one of the things that I've really talked about in my campaign is really bringing people sort of as my board of advisors and really block by block, having somebody really be my liaison, because one person can't do it all. And then I am able to amplify that voice. So that is one of the ways. The other thing I think is accountability and accessibility. I'm going to have office hours so people can contact me. I also have a mailing list that I've been developing and being able to get the word out. Social media is a great tool, but it's not enough. Going door to door, I have a dog, so I'm walking all the time. I meet people all the time with Mr. Bingley. I'm on Delaware Ave all the time walking the dog. So, you know, meeting people that way is wonderful, and just being connected in that way. Another thing that I've been doing and I thought is very important is I started reaching out to every department head in the city, because I think it's critical to build relationships with each and every head, because they're the ones who are going to do the work for us. And so I've started building those relationships, and it's been very positive, in fact. So I think engaging our residents in getting them engaged and having them volunteer. Community cleanups, people were like, sign me up. And I'm like, great, because you're going to be on that task force. And then I have been really blessed to meet people who haven't been involved in the different committees because they have no idea that they exist and they wanted the opportunity. And now we know how to get them and plug them in the place that they need to be. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. So this is going to you again, Violetta, if you would start us off on this next question, which is a new topic. The pandemic has illustrated issues with housing security in the city. What measures should the Common Council take to address issues such as evictions, affordable housing, and enforcement of rental property codes? Make sure you unmute.
This is a great question. Thank you. Well, I will tell you, affordable housing is a huge issue in our community. We have folks that, you know, I have a friend on Stanwick who's living in a place that's very affordable, and the building next door has just been remodeled, and now they're afraid that they might eventually be losing their opportunity to live there. So that we're very concerned about that. I would like to see, currently Albany only has 5% affordable housing units for new developments. I would like to increase that to at least 20 to 30%. We need to have more housing available for residents. That is very important, but we also have to think about creative solutions. We have, the land bank has, you know, a postage stamp land for sale for an affordable price. However, to build between two existing townhouses is a tremendous expense. So if we have more creative ways, so for example, changing our regulations and our building codes to possibly allow container homes, which are more affordable to build. And that is a new opportunity. So we really have to think creatively about affordable housing. So that's something that we should be doing. And when we talk about, I'm for good cause eviction, that is something I'm very passionate about. I'm glad the city has proposed that. And then also the new regulations to hold landlords accountable, especially our absentee landlords, so that DGS is able to act quickly in a case of emergency. That is something that has not happened. I'm very pleased to see DGS moving forward on many different initiatives like that, that are really going to help curb what we are seeing. Especially most recently, we see them having the bond for projects over $2,500. So these are all good initiatives that the DGS is working for us. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Sergio, can you also address this issue? The question is, the pandemic has illustrated issues with housing security in the city. What measures should the Common Council take to address issues such as evictions, affordable housing, and enforcement of rental property codes? Thank you.
Thank you. So as everyone knows, I'm a lifelong affordable housing advocate here in the Capital Region, not only advocating on a local level, but a state level. So I think we should be doing exactly what our housing advocates and our Common Council is currently dealing with. And that is the 4 pieces of legislation, local laws F, local law G, local law H, and local law I. For the last couple of months, we've been hearing a lot of talk about the good cause eviction law. I believe that is one of the most important parts to stopping this issue and helping curb this issue. Because not only does the good cause eviction ensures that tenants can only be evicted for good causes, it also allows the accountability aspect for the tenant as well as the landlord to make sure that landlords are not taking advantage of individuals and families. The residential occupancy permits, the RPOs for buildings, that is another essential thing. I've worked here in the city of Albany doing inspections on many of the properties here in the city, and I'll tell you, the landlords are taking advantage and continuing to rent to renters even after their RPO has expired, months, years. They're still getting away with it. And so in order to stop that, we need to reduce the ROP from 30 months to 24 months. We can even go shorter. But in order to do that, we need to make sure that the process of receiving the RPOs is timelined and it's efficient to make sure that these things are actually being corrected and is actually being done the right way. We also have a lot of buildings that are blighted. We need to address this with building emergency programs. The city is looking to have the Department of Buildings and Regulatory Compliance repair certain items on buildings to avoid declaring it the property unsafe. This is going to save a lot of existing housing in our neighborhoods and throughout the city of Albany.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Sergio, you are going to kick us off on the next question, which is related. Is there, do you think, a role for the city in reducing poverty and creating neighborhoods of mixed income within Ward 7?
Say that first part again, or repeat.
Is there a role for the city in reducing poverty and creating neighborhoods of mixed income within Ward 7?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the opportunity to create mixed income community housing is here. It's right in front of us. We do that through zoning, and which is one of the most important things that I've been bringing up to people at the doors, speaking about to everyone, is that we need to look at the zoning here, and not only the city of Albany, but here in our neighborhood. And as diverse as our ward is, with many people from different backgrounds, ethnicities, incomes, we can make that happen. And one of the biggest ways that we can do that, again, is by addressing the housing issues in our ward by looking at the properties that can be bought, can be fixed up, and continuing to work on the programs to allow residents here in the 7th Ward to be able to buy property, to be able to fix, rehabilitate, but also setting a standard for the type of housing that we would like to see. And that's quality, affordable housing and nothing less.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Violetta, I'll repeat the question for you. Is there a role for the city in reducing poverty and creating neighborhoods of mixed income within Ward 7?
Absolutely. There is definitely a tremendous amount of opportunity to reduce poverty in our community. I think reducing poverty should be our #1 issue. And part of that is what I've been talking about, providing opportunities for our youth through youth programming, and then also economic development. We want to be able to create opportunities for every single student that is here, and every single young person. For example, DGS is short-staffed. Well, why are we working with the school district to build internships so that now we funnel our students who may not want to go to college into good paying union jobs? That is one way we're going to be able to build stronger, more economically vibrant communities. Also, we need opportunities for businesses to come together with the nonprofits to provide internship opportunities that are really meaningful. When I see our students working at the parks, I tell them that you're not just working at the parks, you're doing educational development, right? We need to be able to spin that. So for our students who are going to school, going to college, these are really, it's not just about babysitting. It is about creating a mindset and a work mindset and opportunity. So that is one thing to me, I think, creating opportunities for our young people. And we want to also create an economic future that keeps our young people in our cities. So we need to incentivize businesses to come here. We need to develop programming for small businesses and for entrepreneurs. We have a tremendous city, and we have an amazing neighborhood that is really a microcosm of the city of Albany. So I really feel that if we can pilot programs and we can then launch the rest of the city, we need to have different companies, creative companies, technology companies, and I believe that we can have that in our city. Thank you. And that will change the economic interests of our entire community.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this is going to Violetta. Next question. Albany has approved the development of large apartment rental buildings, while existing residential structures remain vacant, deteriorating, and are becoming urban blight. Would you support a planning requirement that would support reuse of existing buildings, especially with the aim of increasing home ownership? What other ideas do you have on this issue?
Right. Absolutely. We want our residents to be able to live in our community. And the new developments and the new apartments are actually unaffordable. They're starting off at, some of the rents are $1,600, $2,300. We need to increase, and they're rentals. We want to have home ownership. I think we definitely 100% of the vacant homes we can build. We need to have perhaps rent to own. I have lived in communities where the city owned properties and rented it and the tenants fixed the properties up and bought it for $1 because their investment in that property was their mortgage, essentially. So perhaps thinking about creative programming like that. I think we need to work more with develop more grant opportunities for first homeowners. As you know, it's very difficult to get a mortgage for a house that is that needs work. So perhaps we also have to look at community banking. So we really have to be a lot more very creative about the programming. And there are a tremendous amount of wonderful programs. I also think some of the vacant buildings that are perhaps on, you know, in a commercial area can be repurposed to be a business. And we have to incentivize businesses to take that building. So I think we have a tremendous opportunity to really create, because I'll tell you, there's a vacant home almost on every block. So we need to be able to get our first-time home buyers and long-term renters in these communities. They have been here. I want to keep our neighbors here, and we have to really be very creative in how we're going to do that. There are models of success out there. I've mentioned a couple to you, and I think there are more that will work in our city, and we need to move forward on that. It's critical. It's really critical because we want every community member to stay in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Sergio, same question. Albany has approved the development of large apartment rental buildings while existing residential structures are vacant, deteriorating, and becoming urban blight. Would you support a planning requirement that would support reuse of existing buildings, especially with the aim of increasing home ownership? And what other ideas may you have on this issue? Make sure you, Sergio, make sure you unmute. This is for you.
Thank you. So just to add context to that last question, because it was such a great question, I served on the City of Albany's Poverty Reduction Steering Committee years back. And a lot of the work that we did there was collecting data and information on each and every neighborhood here in the city of Albany, and also dealing and addressing the needs for economic development to address the racial wealth gap here in the city of Albany. So I've been doing that and working on that for years. And with my planning experience, it has allowed me to have great insight on the needs and design possibilities here for the 7th Ward. But in regards to your question, I do support a planning permit to allow for the existing use of buildings to not only be turned into affordable housing, but one of the biggest things that we have to make sure is that the zoning allows for those changes. And so we need, again, to address the zoning issues here in the city of Albany to make sure that in these areas, the zoning allows for these changes. It was just a story out this week about redlining. So we need to be cognizant of that and aware of the issues of redlining and how it has impacted zoning laws in the city of Albany. And we need to do a better job with allowing people to buy homes, but we also needed to make it affordable. Not everyone has the opportunity or the money or luxury to live in a 2-family home in a well-off neighborhood in the 7th Ward. People on Delaware Avenue cannot relate to living, unfortunately, in a Heldenberg neighborhood. And so we need to make sure that the people that are living in these areas, they have the assets, they have the means to get into this. It's great to have programming, but unless the person can save the money and have the money to do this, it's still not possible for them. There's the issue of getting loans. We need to make sure that people are able to get loans to be able to fix up and rehabilitate these homes as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sergio, you're going to carry through on our next question. Would you support a program that involves the city participating in cleaning sidewalks and intersections, corners, and bus stops from snow? What ideas would you have to accomplish that?
Yes, I would support a program like that. I think that would be a great program to have in the city of Albany. And there's definitely enough people here in the city of Albany to fulfill those jobs. When you go downtown and you're looking around at the Mission, there's a lot of people, a lot of bodies down there that want to work, that can do that type of work. And so being able to assist and help people who aren't able to get jobs to be able to do these type of work, but also making sure that we give the opportunity to some youth and allowing people to show them how to remove snow and how to do these certain things in order for them to learn how to be young entrepreneurs. We want to make sure that people in the community are aware of the program. So education is very important. that requires someone either going door to door to speak to people to tell them about the program, or constant follow-up and promotion of this program. And so that has to be addressed as well. But yeah, so I would support it. I think it's a great idea. We need to work and include our seniors, our youth, people with the education and background to be able to do it.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Ms. De Rosa, again, I will repeat the question. Do you support a program that involves the city participating in cleaning sidewalks, intersections, corners, and bus stops from snow? And what ideas do you have to accomplish that?
Absolutely. I do have some ideas. I grew up where snow was definitely a part of our life, and my dad worked 30 years for Public Works removing snow. So I have a lot to say on that. I think one of the things that we already see happening, I was happy to work with Kathy Fahey on this and DGS when they proposed the plan, and they already put out the RFP to actually remove snow from the sidewalks and crosswalks and those critical areas. And it was also part of the equity snow removal resolution that was passed by Kathy Fahey as well. So that's something that we're already seeing in action. For myself personally, we really have to educate our homeowners about the 24-hour snow removal. However, we also have to make sure that businesses are doing their share. And I know that our small business owners are, but I can tell you, and probably a lot of folks on this call will tell you, KFC doesn't necessarily do a good job about snow removal. So we need to make sure that those who aren't doing their job, those big commercial properties, that they take care of it or they're fined. So we really need to think about how we manage that. We also have to reward those who are doing a good job and doing the snow removal. In terms of, I would like us to see, again, I want to create opportunities for our youth as well. And I think by creating opportunities for them to work for DGS is the way to go. My dad, we were able to, for 30 years, he worked for the city, and that you know, we lived in a duplex, and, you know, 15 years, he worked hard, a good union job. That's why I'm a passionate union person, that we were able to then move to a duplex that my parents owned. So we need to be able to not only teach them the skills, but we need to hire these students with DGS. That's why I want them to work and not be contractors. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. Okay, so our next question, Violetta will start us off. Mr. Rosa, the commercial spines on Delaware Avenue and New Scotland Avenue are vital to community vibrancy.
Mm-hmm.
How can the city better support small independent businesses to locate and survive in these neighborhood communities?
Oh, absolutely. I will tell you, I have a lot of ideas on this. I'm very passionate about our local business. For many years, I worked at the San Diego State Entrepreneurial Management Center. So I worked with the likes of Bob Leonard, who founded Ticketmaster, and Giles Bateman. They were on a board that I managed. So I got some great insight. We need to be able to have programming that actually encourages investment in Delaware Ave. We have many empty buildings, but we also have to have, the city should have a business office. Well, I was really disappointed when the grants came out from the county that not one of our businesses in our ward got that $5,000 grant. And I know that, and I already have people in place who are willing to help our local businesses as consultants for free, because they know how important this is. And they feel just as passionate about it as I do. So we need to provide, the city would need to provide a liaison between permits and what contract and what small businesses need. For example, the owners in Luby's, new owner, he needs help with that. And so we need to have a department or a person in a department that helps be that liaison. But we also have to help with economic development and also provide them other types of services, matching them up with Small Business Bureau, matching them up with other business mentors, right? So for example, a smaller business just starting out might really be matched with a business that's similar, that's become very successful. So there is a lot of different things we can do. I think also we have to divert some of the investment that's happening in large businesses and divert that into our local funds. And we have to make it more business friendly. I can't tell you time and time again where I have heard people, I don't want to do business here, and they go to another town. We have to make our city business friendly, and so we can bring back Delaware Ave. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Adams, I will repeat the question for you. The commercial spines on Delaware Avenue and New Scotland Avenue are vital to community vibrancy. How can the city better support small independent businesses to locate and survive in our neighborhood communities? Make sure you're unmute. Sorry.
Small business is the backbone of community. And through this pandemic, I've witnessed a lot of small businesses face turmoil, and I did something about that. And so I partnered with organizations and stakeholders and created a series called Coping Through COVID. And one of the series that we focused on was the SBA loans and PPP loans, and getting people to understand the paperwork needed to be able to take advantage of these loans. And so education is always very important. We need to make sure that residents, small business owners are aware of this information before it's too late. Throughout this COVID, a lot of our Black small businesses went out of business, and most of them never even got a chance to even apply for these loans. And so we need to make sure that the education is forefront. We need to make sure that literacy, financial literacy is also addressed, and making sure that small businesses who are just starting has opportunities to, again, educate themselves on how to keep their businesses sustainable over time. But also on a city level, working to create more incentives and programs to help them when they are in need. They may only need it once, great. Some people may need it often, but we need to make sure that our small businesses are protected, they feel heard, and we also need to make sure that they're educated. So.
Terrific, thank you very much. Sergio, you're going to start us off on this next question, new topic. Parks are an important and valued resource of the city and its residents. How will you ensure that parks are maintained so that they meet the changing needs of residents? Would you like me to repeat that?
Just one more time, please.
A little bit long, sorry. Parks are an important and valued resource of the city and its residents. How will you ensure that parks are maintained so that they meet the changing needs of residents?
I've had the luxury of working with the city of Albany to do planning for several of the parks, and also had the opportunity to work with the Department of Recreation to expand youth programs and stuff at the park. And so I think one of the biggest things, as we're now seeing a lot of development happen, especially here to Lincoln Park in our ward, that maintaining and cleanliness is going to be very important. If we're going to put all this money and investment into the parks, we want to make sure that they're safe, making sure that they're clean and accessible. And so how we do that, we need to have better enforcement. DGS, we need to make sure that they're able to frequently go through these parks and clean. If they need assistance, then we need to have a conversation with them and find out what their needs are to better do their job. But also in the city of Albany, we also have the Skyway coming, and that is a multi-million-dollar project that is going to reshape the downtown area. And a lot of residents had concerns about, well, how are we going to maintain that park when we barely maintain Washington Park or Lincoln Park? And again, as I just mentioned, it comes down to enforcement. It comes down to sitting down with the departments and finding out what they need, their needs are, for them to be able to efficiently do their jobs.
Terrific. Thank you very much. And Violetta, I'll repeat the question for you. Parks are an important and valued resource of the city and its residents. How will you ensure that parks are maintained so that they meet the changing needs of residents?
Okay, great. Thank you. So I just want to point out that DGS, Department of General Services, maintains the parks. That is their role, is maintenance. So I think it's really critical that we do give them the tools and the manpower that they need to get the job done. But we also, what is very critical is to listen to our community. We need to make sure that the parks represent what our community wants. I think we saw what happened in Lincoln Park, where that perhaps wasn't felt when the trees were taken down. And then there was, and the community didn't necessarily want 3 basketball courts. So I think we really need to do a better job of getting the community invested. And well, the community is invested, but let's just listen. Let us listen to our residents and what they want for the parks. And let's listen to our residents and what they want for their children and how they want to use those parks. Our parks are community centers. They're a gathering place. We have a tremendous amount of families that are out there using them, having picnics there, playing bongos in them, taking their dogs there. We need to maintain these parks. We need to make sure that they stay clean. We need to make sure that there's enough garbage cans. Look around, sometimes there just isn't. So we need to make sure that these parks, that we hear what the community wants in terms of what they want in the parks and listen very closely to our community. And 2, we need to give DGS and the Department of Rec the tools they need and the resources they need to maintain it for us. And that's the role of our Common Council, is to make sure that we give our departments the tools and resources to make sure that they can get the job done for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Violetta, you are going to start us off on this next question, which is related. Community gardens and dog parks are also important resources to residents, especially in the Delaware Avenue and Normanskill neighborhoods. How would you improve infrastructure that supports these spaces?
You just talked about 2 things that are very dear to my heart: gardening and dogs. So I think that's very critical. I will tell you, during some of the community cleanups, there are areas that continually attract litter. Well, wouldn't it be nice, and I think makes more sense, when we partner with other nonprofits who partner and do gardens, and that's their expertise, to actually then bring them in, let them have a community garden, bring the community in to have their plot. And look at that. We have a new area that the community can have pride in, especially when we think of the many areas that people dump in our city. You look at the back corner of View and Garden there. We found a number of TVs just dumped there. Well, if you actually build a community garden there, and it's something to bring community together, to work together, I'll tell you, there won't be any more dumping there. Parks, dog parks, absolutely. If for me, I got to take Mr. Bingley on a long walk, which tires him out, but he loves to play with other dogs. And the closest dog park for us to go to is either Washington Park or Hartman all the way down off the golf course. I want a place here that's in our community, because that's when you have dogs, you meet other people. It is also another community center. Dog people end up knowing all the other dog people, and we don't know the owner's name, but we all know the dog's names, and it is a community, and it is important that we have one in ours, which we do not. So I would definitely advocate for some of those areas that are neglected, that that might be something to think about, is having a dog park in there. So thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Sergio, can you please inform us your opinions on community gardens and dog parks, especially in that Delaware Avenue and Normanskill neighborhood? How would you improve infrastructure that supports these spaces? Make sure you're hitting mute. Yep.
Thank you. That's a great question. And as a resident over here in the Hudson Park neighborhood, I live right on Park Avenue. Across the street is where they're building the treatment facility, the sewer facility. And the park right there has always, for years, residents complained about it, has been used as a dog park. However, it's not. Um, but one of the biggest things that we need to do if people do want a dog park or expansions of dog park is just identify um, the space. Where in our ward can we have dog parks placed at, and finding ways to protect it and make it safe, and also putting up signage for people to curb their dogs. Whether it's down in Norman's Kill area, Delaware Avenue, my girlfriend's son, we participate at the Friendship Garden right there with the school, and the kids love it. It's a great opportunity for them to learn about gardening, about the environment, about bugs and animals, insects. So I love it. Right here on Irving, we have another beautiful community garden that residents take care of. And just the other day, I was out there, and things are growing. It looks beautiful, and so we just need to be able to support those people who are maintaining our gardens, and also reaching out to more community people to get them interested to participate. But we need to identify the space to create the infrastructure and promote it.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Okay, our next question, which is, we're up to question 14, and we're down to about the last 10 minutes or so of maybe 15 minutes of questions. This one, somebody is asking about speeding and high volume traffic on Marwell Street. There is only one school zone sign on Marwell, which is about 200 feet from Albany School for the Humanities, Ash on Whitehall. And then there's no sign headed towards Hackett to indicate the end of the school zone speed limit. The street also has far fewer speed zone signs around the school area, and this is all concerning to the people who are living there. How would you go about correcting this dangerous situation?
Thank you. That is
sorry, that's for you, Mr.
That is a fantastic question. And I've spoken to those residents a lot about that issue over the years. And, as a planner, we look at things when it comes to transportation issues like that, of lack of signage, speeding, and there's methods and ways where you can redesign your street, whether it's including bumpers, whether it's having a speed bump in place, or certain designs that will allow people to have to slow down. These are things that I believe the city needs to look into, because it's a city issue. Everyone is having this issue with speeding. So again, we need to address it, and the best way to do it is through urban planning and planning. We spoke about signage in terms of residents want to see more of the digital signage that tells people how fast they're going, as well as to slow down. We also talked about the traffic devices being solar powered to ensure that the lighting is not impacting neighbors at night when they're sleeping. So there's many different things that we can do, but it all entails planning, and we need the city planning department, as well as the committee that I sit on, the Capital District Transportation Committee, to be able to come together, as well as Walkable Albany, to be able to look at our cities, our streets, and come up with better solutions to reduce speeding, traffic accidents, and poor signage. And so I've been actively working on that, and I'm looking to continue to bring more residents in and inform more residents about the role that they can play in doing so.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Mr. Adams. And we move to Violetta on the same question. Speeding and high volume traffic on Marwell Street are of great concern. There is only one school zone sign on Marwell, about 200 feet from Ash on Whitehall, and no sign heading towards Hackett to indicate the end of the school zone speed limit. The street also has fewer speed zone signs around the school area. How would you go about correcting this dangerous situation?
Absolutely. That is a very important question. Well, I will tell you that traffic and safety are the ones that manage those. And we need to definitely have more signs put in place. We have to have that around the schools and all of the locations that the person who asked the question asked. We need to have more signage, but also something that I think is very important is that we have to slow down the speed in Albany down to 25. So I think we need to have city speed down to 25 miles per hour. That's a start. And something that I think we should also be discussing is we have traffic issues in every single, well, down Bertha is a problem, Marwell is a problem, down by Holbert, down by Second. We need to have a traffic study in the 7th Ward. It is absolutely critical. We have too many schools and we have many of our residents are pedestrians. We need to have a traffic study. It is critical that we have that. As much as the idea of putting speed bumps is, people mention that, it is not feasible because it becomes a danger to safety vehicles. So we can't have that in the city. However, there are different ways. We need to have perhaps more red light stop signs, those types of things. And we're only going to know what we need is once we do a traffic study in those areas. In the meantime, to slow down traffic, one of the things that I would like to propose is to have a pilot program where we actually increase the signage throughout the 7th Ward to ask people to slow down. And I'd like us to do a study prior to those signage going up and then after the signage going up and to see if this is how it is working. And then do it to the rest of the community. I will tell you when I see something, I do something about it. And one of the things that I saw as an issue was this, and I happened to see some signs at a store that needed to go up and people love them. So people really responded to having more signage. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is going to you, Violetta. You're going to continue. The question is, do you have any thoughts about making the 7th Ward neighborhoods safer for our area youth? Somehow I have a feeling you have lots of thoughts.
I do have lots of thoughts on that. We do have to make it safer for our youth. And what we have to do is develop programs. If you go prior COVID, anytime you walked into the Delaware branch after school, there are a ton of kids in there hanging out. Our libraries have become our community centers. So what does that tell you? We need community centers. We need more community centers in our neighborhoods. We have a tremendous amount of wonderful programming. Boys and Girls Club, which is on the other side. When you think of, kids who go to ASH, which not in our ward, but kids who go to ASH live in our ward. We need something that's closer for them. We need to have community centers. We need to have more programs where we have buddies. We also need to have, make sure lighting in our streets are very good. And again, how are our kids going to be safe in our streets, walking our streets? Goes back down, snow removal in the winters when they're walking, goes back to making sure that our roads are pedestrian friendly. That's one type of safety. The other type of safety is making sure that there is programming in place for them. We need to have opportunities for our kids. We need to make sure that they are safe. We need to take care of them all the time. And I'm a firm believer when you become, you must care for every single community member. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Violetta. Sergio, I have a feeling you also have a multitude of ideas on this topic. So the question is, do you have plans for making Ward 7 neighborhoods safer for area youth?
Yes. And that question ties back into a lot of the things that we talked about tonight. The pressing issue of gun violence here in our communities. A lot of families are just alone afraid of that to have their kids outside. And so if we're not addressing the gun violence here in the city of Albany, in our neighborhoods, parents and kids, they're going to continue to feel unsafe. In addition, we also talked about safety for our kids. The traffic is another one. I can't tell you how many mothers and family members that I speak to every day who are, their complaint is, I don't want my kids playing outside for too long because the cars are speeding too fast. And so again, just as that last question, we need to address the traffic issues and the signage in our neighborhoods. But more importantly, as someone who has worked with the Department of Recreation under Commissioner Jonathan Jones and Michael Banks and Raphael Tucker, I've worked with the Department of Recreation to expand their city programs to all parks in the city of Albany. Years back, we worked to expand those programs and create a database to not only attract youth, but back in 2015, I was able to work and help open the one of the only other youth career centers over on Clinton Avenue. Since then, no other youth center has been developed, and that is something that we also need here in the 7th Ward. The Boys and Girls Club can only service so many kids, and we want to make sure that all our youth have opportunities. But most importantly, we also have to address the issues with gangs. We see a lot of fighting and after school between Green Tech, between Albany leadership. These kids are getting it in. And so we need to make sure that we have a present beat cop in that daytime when kids are getting off from school to ensure that our kids are safe getting home, whether they're walking by themselves with a group of friends or whoever. We need to tackle this and look at it from all angles.
Thank you very much. This will be the last question before closing statements. We're just after 8:15 here. The question, which goes to you, Mr. Adams, do you have any plans to address the ongoing problem of food deserts in Ward 7 or work collaboratively to address this issue at the city level?
Yes. So for me, I've been also addressing this for years, this issue of food deserts, as again, working in urban planning, working in the South End, working on these neighborhood plans. We can't help but notice the lack of food and the disparity between communities. And so I've had the pleasure to not only work with the director, Trayvon, of the Albany, the African Culture Community Center down on South Pearl, to be able to address the need of a grocery store here, well, in the South End, but also noticing that we also need one for the 7th Ward. Over at the City Mall, right off of Whitehall, the Save-A-Lot that was there, that a lot of people went to here in our neighborhood, is no longer there. And so that's another access to food that has been taken away from our community. And we also need to focus on trying to get fresh fruits and produce in our stores. For whatever reason, the city of Albany has I believe like a local law where stores cannot sell like fruit and produce and stuff outside. That was interesting for me to learn. I don't know if anyone else knew that, but that's kind of why you don't see the corner stores or bodegas really selling fresh produce. But again, working with our community gardens, working with people here in the 7th Ward, we have a great amount of people who have gardening experience, especially if you notice the one over on Slingerland Street. That one is another big one over there. And so we need to, again, empower our residents and making sure that we're addressing these disparities and making sure that the community is informed and educated on food deserts and what those are. Working with other activists here in the city of Albany, there's the free food fridge.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. I'm sorry, we have to stop there.
All right.
So Violetta, I'll repeat the question. Do you have any plans to address the ongoing problem of food deserts in the 7th Ward or work collaboratively to address this issue at the city level?
Yes and yes. I think hunger it's not only food deserts, but we have a chronic hunger issue in our city. I see it in our schools as an educator, and I work to address it through the backpack program, also being part of food deliveries. This pandemic has certainly showed us the need for those to get food, especially when the large drop-offs were areas where people without vehicles were hard to get to. So we definitely need to have some more places for our residents to buy food. However, we do have Price Choppers, which is a part of our ward. We also have Andy's and Cardona's. They do have some food as well. And we have some of the newer markets like the Ecuadorian market as well that has some food. However, that is true, it's not enough. We need to have more. We have to have more fruits, vegetables. We need, we have Fresno's, which is the best bakery ever. So, we don't need another bakery. But that space, I will tell you that there has been discussions, and I have been in conversations with Lynn Lakakis and some residents as well, with Frank Bakerville and Bakersville, as well as with Sonia Fredericks, about attempting to bring Aldi's to where the Save-A-Lot was. We think there will be that is a good opportunity to bring Aldi's there. And so we've actually already sort of been in some discussions about that. So we're really, we hope that might happen. No promises, but I think, and again, it goes back to local. And I would love to have a local produce store that we could walk to. That would be phenomenal. And then I think we also, in terms of addressing food hunger, and we have Capital Roots. Capital Roots have their food truck as well that comes with fresh vegetables. And I know that that was suspended for a while, but hopefully that will be back. And that is another opportunity, as well as our farmers market that's hosted by Dana, which is another great opportunity. So I think we're making some great steps and we'll move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we have closing statements from our candidates, I want to thank once again everyone for coming out tonight, for the league members and neighborhood associations who put this together, for our wonderful candidates for their time tonight, and for the public for their interest this evening. Please remember to check on vote411.org for information about these and other candidates, as well as information about where to cast your ballots and more. Thank you all, and thank you for voting on June 22nd. The polls will be open 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. and early voting in person is open June 12th through June 20th. You can check on that vote411.org or the Albany County Board of Elections website for the locations. Early voting locations can be different from the usual voting locations. So I will now call on Violetta De Rosa to begin our closing statements. You have 2 minutes. Make sure you unmute.
Thank you. You know the saying, see something, say something. Well, I say see something, do something. We need less talk and more action to get the results. I am committed to working for you, the residents of my ward, and not outside interests. I've always been compelled to serve my community, and when serving as your Common Council member, I will advocate for all our children, seniors, and families to ensure there is equity for all of Albany's neighborhoods. I am committed to working hard to address the quality of life issues that impact our neighborhoods, from urban blight, absentee landlords, and driving economic development. Running for office has been an incredible journey. I have met people from across the 7th Ward who have shared their love for our community and who want to work together. It reaffirms that my campaign is not about me, it is about the community and working together to build back a better 7th Ward. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and all of the neighborhood associations, and for you, all the voters that are taking the time to hear this conversation. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening. And I ask you to vote for me on June 22nd. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. De Rosa. And now we will hear closing statements from Sergio Adams. Thank you. We'll make sure that you hit unmute. Yep.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be able to speak with everyone tonight. Hopefully tonight, through this conversation, debate, everyone listening has had the opportunity to clear their heads and see that this election is the most important election for our board that we faced in a very long time. You have the decision to pick between a candidate who has been involved, committed, has been out doing the work for years, who has not taken any time off, that has shown that he is committed, dedicated, and working towards progressive change, not only for our board, but for our city of Albany. Experience matters. Knowledge matters. We want to elect a representative that understands the needs of the communities, that understands the needs of the people, who understands and knows the people in their community that they're looking to represent. The choice couldn't be clearer. But if you needed to make a decision, I hope that you pick me. Your vote can help make a difference not only in our board, but in our city. This can be the difference of our board continuing down the path it has been or moving to new heights. I'm looking forward to working with everyone here in the 7th Ward and in the city of Albany to move our city forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adams and Violetta. Thank you both very much for coming and talking with us tonight. I hope everybody has a good and safe night. Thank you.